So, um, what do our kidneys do? Um, well, a whole heck of a lot. They are, in fact, the central most important organs in our body for controlling our blood pressure and keeping it normal. If we have perfectly normal, healthy kidneys, in fact, it's hard to have high blood pressure. And in that way, many of us who are nephrologists, as I am, or kidney disease docs, um, think of high blood pressure as a form of kidney disease. The kidneys make hormones that act on our blood vessels and on our hearts to raise blood pressure. The kidneys also control the amount of salt we keep in our body. So we eat salt every day. Most Americans eat too much salt every day. Uh, and, and if our kidneys are perfectly healthy, they pee out all of the salt that we eat that we don't need. But when our kidneys lose that ability to do that, it can build up in our body, expand our blood, and raise our blood pressure. So the kidneys keep the amount of fluid in our bodies just right. And that's going to be a theme over and over again. Somehow, the kidneys have a certain wisdom to keep things just right. Not too much, not too little. If and so if I were to drink only one glass of water or coffee in a day, and anyone who knows me knows that I never drink just one cup of coffee in a day, um, then I'll pee less. If I were to drink 3 gallons of water in a day, I'd pee more. And the amount of fluid in my body would stay just right. And in fact, our kidneys are even cleverer than that. They can sort of orchestrate the whole symphony and match the amount of fluid they keep in our body to the amount of salt we have in our body. And so it can keep track of lots of different things and keep them all in balance. There are also important nutrients and chemicals that are important for all of our cells to run properly. Things that we take in and need, like calcium and potassium and sodium. The balance between sodium and potassium actually helps our heart keep a right rhythm, helps the nerves in our brain and body communicate with each other. And the concentrations of all of these are regulated by the kidneys. The next one, eliminating waste products, is what I think most of us understand the kidneys do. So every cell in our body um, is, uh, is doing work every day. And as a byproduct of that work, each of our cells make wastes that if they were to build up would be harmful to us or poisonous. And the kidneys filter the blood to eliminate those wastes in our urine. And clearly, if the kidneys can't do that, those waste products will build up to be harmful. It helps to match the amount of nutrients we eat to what we need. So it doesn't matter if we eat just enough protein or if we eat a lot more protein. If we eat a lot more protein, we pee out those extra nutrients. If we don't eat, if we eat just enough, we hang on to all of it. So again, the kidneys are keeping everything in balance. Uh, the kidneys are also very important for bone health. And we all know that we need vitamin D. We get it from either diet or from sunlight, where our bodies can make it in the skin. But in fact, vitamin D doesn't do anything on its own. The vitamin D has to be activated in order to actually work in our intestines to help us absorb calcium or to work on our bones to build bone. And the vitamin D actually gets activated in the kidneys. And if the kidneys don't work and lose that capacity, it actually harms our bones. The kidneys also prevent anemia. And so I think many people probably know that our blood cells are made in the marrow of our bones. Um, but the bone marrow only makes blood cells if it gets the message to do that. And the message actually comes from the kidneys that make a hormone called erythropoietin. And erythropoietin goes to the bone marrow to tell the marrow cells to make new blood cells. When I was learning to be a nephrologist, every patient with kidney disease was terribly anemic, and most of them needed transfusions all the time. And in fact, one of the most amazing things I think I ever saw was when, you'll have to hold on for a second while I shut up the phone. Okay. Um, uh, was when scientists were able to identify the erythropoietin hormone, isolate the gene for it, and then make synthetic erythropoietin in the laboratory. And we started giving it to our patients. And after that day, we never transfused a patient. And in fact, by raising their blood counts more towards normal, they felt so much better. They thought we had cured them of their kidney disease. It was just a miracle. And the kidneys were doing this all along, and they didn't have to think about it. And so I want to give you a bit of an anatomy lesson now. Kidneys are mostly a bunch of just very special blood vessels that are connected to some fancy plumbing. They're your kidneys. Got one on each side. They really do look like giant beans, and we jokingly refer to them as the beans. And there's the main artery coming from the heart, the aorta, and the main vein taking blood back to the heart, the vena cava. And that main artery is connected right to the kidneys. And in fact, 1/5 of all the blood that our hearts pump go to the kidneys. They're kind of standing almost in front of the line. The lungs are actually the only organ that gets more of the blood. And you can see that the artery goes, this is now a blow up of a little slice in the kidney. And the kidney's made up of 1,000,000 units like this, 1.5 million, called nephrons. And each one has a little tuft of blood vessels called the glomerulus. And it's just a little knotted up ball of blood vessels, kind of looks like a ball of wool. And that's where the blood is filtered to make urine, which then is collected from all these 1.5 million nephrons to go through the ureter to the bladder and out to the toilet. So each of those nephrons filters the blood. The kidneys can only filter what's in the blood. So if I had stuff in my fat in my butt, it stays there unless it can get in the blood to get to my kidney. The urine that gets collected here isn't just what's filtered. The rest of the nephron changes it as it goes down the path to the bladder. So the glomerulus is the filtering part of the nephron. And I tell you that word because the term you'll hear to describe kidney function when we measure it is glomerular filtration rate. It's how much our glomeruli altogether filter from the blood. And it's a very, very clever, tight filter. And normally, no protein from our blood gets into the urine. And so here's a cartoon that shows it a little more clearly. Blood comes in, it has wastes, it goes into these nephrons. You can see, as I said, it's sort of a ball of wool of little blood vessels. And imagine if I were to take a slice right through it and look at it in a microscope, I'd see each of these little blood vessels on edge, and they'd be little open circles where the blood would be flowing through in real life. it makes the beginnings of urine, and the urine travels around past some more blood vessels where it can get changed along the way until we pee it out. So the kidneys filter waste from the blood just like a sieve. So imagine that's your glomerulus and those are your blood cells. And I mean, they look like cut up celery, but they stay in your blood vessels. And cells don't get through, and even large molecules like proteins don't get through. Um, uh, I told you that 1/5 of all the blood that's pumped by the heart goes through the kidneys, and if we counted that up, that would make 50 gallons of urine a day. No one pees 50 gallons in a day because none of us really weigh as much as 50 gallons. Um, and and you know, the pot would overflow, and if we took all that fluid out of us, we'd dry up and turn to dust or human potato chips. So we have to have a way. The kidney's clever. It uses all of that fluid to filter wastes out, but then it takes most of the clean fluid back. It takes back 99% of what's filtered and just excretes the wastes that we don't need. So it gets rid of the acid that our bodies make every day from our cells working. If we eat extra potassium, it gets rid of the extra potassium. If we eat extra sodium, it gets rid of extra sodium or extra phosphorus. I already told you if I drink 3 gallons of water, it'll get rid of it, and it gets rid of the wastes. But when we need sodium or potassium or phosphorus or calcium or water, healthy kidneys can hang on to almost all of it, you know, even while still making enough urine to excrete our wastes. So, you know, not too much, not too little, just right. So all of our other organs depend on our kidneys, which actually play nicely together. We need the blood cells to deliver oxygen to all of the organs in our body, and our kidneys tell our marrow to make them. We need fluid in our blood plasma to keep our blood vessels full. You know, this takes the albumin that the kidneys hang on to and the sodium that it keeps just right. We need calcium and phosphorus for our bones, and the kidneys regulate this and regulate the vitamin D we need, and we need potassium and calcium for our cells to work properly. But what if they don't work normally? Well, sodium and fluid can build up, and that can cause high blood pressure, or if there's way too much, heart failure. If the potassium is too high, it can cause heart rhythm problems and arrhythmias or an irregular heartbeat. If calcium is too low, it can affect our brains, our hearts, our muscles, can cause bone problems as well. If acid builds up, it can actually slowly dissolve your bones. It can make the work of breathing much harder. If there aren't enough blood cells and you're seriously anemic, it taxes the heart and taxes the lungs. And if wastes build up, we think more slowly. It gives us multiple brain problems, digestive problems, including nausea and vomiting, skin problems, muscle weakness and fatigue. And also, our kidneys excrete a lot of the medicines we take. So, so some medicines either won't work or will raise to dangerous levels if our kidneys aren't working normally.